Every morning offers us two choices: remain the same or rise above yesterday's version of ourselves. But most people roll out of bed and unconsciously choose comfort, routine, and mediocrity. That's the trap. Not because they are incapable, but because they've allowed the weaker version of themselves to take the wheel. That weaker self whispers excuses, glorifies comfort, and seduces you into delaying the discipline and destruction of your limits. But here's the truth: you cannot change your life until you start attacking the version of yourself that resists growth. If you want to evolve into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient, you must kill the weaker self every morning, before the day begins, before the world gets loud, and before your doubts start talking. The weak version of you is not just about laziness or tiredness. It's the voice that tells you to hit snooze, the one that rationalizes skipping your workout, that convinces you your dreams are too big. It's the identity that's addicted to short-term pleasure, constantly avoiding the discomfort of becoming more. And the only way to win: build a morning battlefield where your warrior self rises and slays the excuses before they multiply. There's a sacred power in mornings. In the silence before sunrise lies your opportunity to reset, refocus, and reprogram. When you train your body, discipline your breath, direct your thoughts, and anchor your spirit each morning, you are not just preparing for the day. You are executing the weak self and calling forth the awakened one. One of the most engaging ideas is this: if you don't kill the weaker version of yourself every morning, it will resurrect stronger the next day. Think about that. Every time you ignore discipline, it accumulates power. But every time you fight back, get up early, train, breathe, reflect, you reclaim control over your life. The version of you that procrastinates, reacts emotionally, escapes into distractions, that's not who you truly are. That's a layer you've worn for too long, and now you must peel it off. You must attack it daily, not with hatred, but with relentless love for the stronger self that's trying to break through. Killing the weak self doesn't mean becoming hard or emotionless. It means becoming aligned with your purpose. It means doing the things you don't feel like doing because they serve your higher identity. It means turning silence into strength, breath into focus, discipline into freedom. So this is your invitation. Every morning, face the mirror and ask, who am I serving today? The self that holds me back or the one that pulls me forward? Then act, move, breathe, train, refuse the comfort. Build the fire, because you are not here to live a life dictated by fear or fatigue. You're here to rise, again and again, until the weaker self has no space left to breathe. The war isn't out there, it's in here, inside your thoughts, your habits, your emotions, and your choices. Every single morning, the battlefield is laid before you. On one side stands the weaker version of yourself, the one that wants to sleep in, avoid responsibility, dodge discomfort, scroll endlessly, and live inside excuses. On the other side stands the warrior within you, the version that's hungry for growth, ready to push boundaries, ready to show up even when it's hard. The weak self will never go away permanently. It's always lurking, always watching for a moment of vulnerability. That's why the fight must happen daily. That's why the work must be done early. You don't wait for life to demand your strength. You generate that strength before the world even wakes up. That's how you stay in command. That's how you begin to live intentionally, not reactively. Every day you wake up is a rebirth. You are offered the sacred chance to be better, to think clearer, to move stronger, to speak truer. But that chance is only realized if you make the choice to destroy your limitations every morning. You don't grow by hoping. You grow by hurting, by willingly stepping into discomfort, choosing the harder path, and trusting that every drop of sweat, every breath of stillness, every moment of silence is sculpting the person you were meant to be. There's a saying, a man who conquers himself is greater than one who conquers 1,000 enemies in battle. That's what this journey is about: self-conquest, killing off the patterns, habits, and beliefs that have kept you small, building the mindset, the energy, and the presence of someone who lives life awake, not asleep at the wheel. This isn't a motivational speech. This is a call to arms. This is a reminder that your time is running out. And unless you make war with your excuses every morning, they will quietly suffocate your potential. So tomorrow morning, don't just wake up. Rise with purpose. Look in the mirror and reject the version of yourself that craves ease. Instead, choose effort, choose presence, choose mastery, and know this: you don't need motivation. You need a reason, and your reason is simple. Because the stronger version of you is waiting to be born. Waiting to be chosen, waiting to be honored. Don't let another morning pass you by without killing the version of yourself that keeps you average. It's time to rise, time to sharpen your soul, time to become dangerous again, not to the world, but to your doubts, your fears, and your limits. The morning is your altar, and it's time to offer the old self as a sacrifice. Every single morning, before the rest of the world has stirred, there exists a window of unparalleled clarity, a pocket of time where you hold the power to dictate who you will be for the rest of the day. In this sacred space, the first decision you make isn't about what clothes you'll wear or what emails need checking. It's about who will lead your life today, the strong, conscious self or the fragile, reactive one. This is why mastering the morning before the morning masters you isn't a motivational slogan, it's survival. Because the version of you that hesitates in the morning, that delays, that waits for permission to move, that version multiplies weakness through your entire day. That version sets the tone, not just for the next few hours, but for the next chapter of your life. There's a reason why the first few minutes of your morning are so critical. Your mind is still waking up from sleep, the subconscious is wide open, and your nervous system is incredibly receptive. If you allow this vulnerable space to be filled with noise, scrolling, reacting, or staying in bed longer than you should, you're basically handing over the keys of your mind to chaos. But if you choose that moment to center yourself, move your body, slow your breath, and begin with conscious intention, you are stepping into life as a master, not a slave to circumstance. The weak self is very clever in the morning. It doesn't shout, it whispers, it doesn't argue with logic, it seduces with comfort. You need more sleep. You worked hard yesterday, you can start tomorrow. These lines aren't just thoughts, they're weapons used by the lesser version of yourself to maintain its control. The longer you entertain them, the more you become that version again. That's why the morning demands brutality. You don't negotiate with the weaker self. You outmove it, you don't respond, you rise. There is no morning routine powerful enough to change you unless you bring discipline and presence into it. It's not about copying rituals, it's about igniting a fire that says, I refuse to begin my day as a victim of my own excuses. This is why movement matters. When you move early in the day, whether it's stretching, martial forms, breathwork, cold exposure, you are signaling to your brain, I am here, I am ready, I will not be controlled by weakness today. And yet, most people surrender their mornings. They scroll through meaningless content, they reach for dopamine instead of discipline, they eat sugar instead of silence, and without realizing it, they are no longer choosing who they become. They are being programmed by whatever has the loudest voice or the easiest path. The one who does not own the morning cannot own the day, and the one who doesn't own the day will never own their destiny. True mastery of the morning has nothing to do with being a morning person. It has everything to do with whether or not you are serious about transformation. It asks you, what are you willing to sacrifice to grow? The first sacrifice is always sleep, but not the sleep you need, just the sleep your comfort craves. When the alarm rings and you want to stay in bed, that moment is sacred. That is the battlefield. And you either let the weaker self win, or you rise while it's still quiet and show it that it no longer has dominion over you. The world is loud. Social media is noisy. People demand your attention. But the morning, that precious hour before distraction begins, is the only time you can still choose solitude over stimulation. Most don't. Most fear silence, but silence is where the warrior awakens. Silence is where clarity sharpens. And if you begin your day with noise, you will crave noise the rest of the day. But if you begin your day in stillness, you train your system to stay calm and grounded, no matter how chaotic the external world becomes. Think of the first hour of your morning as spiritual warfare. You are choosing whether to feed your higher self or your habitual self, and make no mistake, whichever you feed becomes stronger. If you roll over and stay in bed, the weaker self gets stronger. If you rise, make your bed, get on the mat, breathe deeply, take cold water on your face, or move into deliberate motion, you've already won. That victory ripples through everything else. Your tone of voice changes. Your posture improves. Your thoughts slow down. You stop reacting and start responding. What's fascinating is that those who master their mornings start to move through life differently. They don't stumble into their work, they enter it with intention. They don't allow other people's chaos to dictate their emotions because they've already built internal stillness. They don't chase the day, they lead it, and people notice. That energy is magnetic, but it's not about impressing anyone. It's about reclaiming your own power every morning without fail. Mastering the morning doesn't mean you never have bad days. It means even on bad days, you have a code. You get up, you do your work. You breathe, you check in with your values, you move your body, you reject the urge to scroll or snooze or wait for motivation. You do what is necessary, not what is easy. And over time, this consistency builds a kind of unshakable self-trust. You begin to believe in your ability to change because you're no longer betraying yourself before breakfast. That's where confidence comes from, not from achievements, but from the private victories no one else sees. So when we talk about killing the weaker self every morning, this is what we mean. Rejecting the small, invisible choices that invite weakness into your day. That extra hour in bed, that aimless scrolling, that absence of movement. Those small compromises become the roots of greater suffering later. But if you master the moment between sleep and action, if you dominate your breath, your focus, and your body first thing in the morning, you don't just improve your day. You transform your life, one quiet victory at a time. The weak self will always wait until the day begins to show up, but the strong one arrives before the sun, and that's the version of you the world is waiting to meet. Every powerful transformation begins with the decision to abandon comfort, not because comfort is inherently evil, but because it quietly, gradually erodes your edge. It softens your will, blunts your ambition, and lulls you into a state of complacency so subtle, you hardly notice it's happening, until one day you look in the mirror and no longer recognize the strength that once lived in your eyes. If you truly want to rise, if you want to become a version of yourself that commands life instead of reacting to it, then you must break comfort to build character. There is no other way. Strength is forged in struggle, and the refusal to step into that struggle is the greatest betrayal of your potential. Comfort seduces with promises of safety, of ease, of rest. It speaks to the most primitive part of your brain, the part that is hardwired to conserve energy, avoid pain, and seek pleasure. But the same instincts that kept your ancestors alive can also keep you trapped. Live, yes, but never truly living. When you obey comfort, you become its servant. You begin to shrink your goals to fit your mood. You start to abandon challenges that once excited you. You lose the sharpness in your mind, the fire in your body, the clarity in your spirit. But when you voluntarily confront discomfort every morning, when you step into the cold, the stillness, the repetition, the hunger, you're no longer at the mercy of your instincts. You're in command of them. It is through discomfort that your true self is revealed. You learn who you really are when you're out of breath, muscles trembling, spine erect, eyes locked forward, resisting the urge to quit. In those moments of physical, emotional, or mental resistance, when everything in you screams for relief and you choose to stay anyway, you are not just building strength, you are reclaiming identity. Every rep, every cold shower, every moment of fasting, every breath held longer than before, they are all tools. Tools that chisel away at the unnecessary and carve out someone undeniable. You don't build a powerful self by doing what feels good. You build it by doing what's necessary, and what's necessary is rarely easy. No one ever built character in a warm bed, scrolling endlessly through distractions. You build character when you get up before you're ready. When you move through fatigue, when you eat for fuel, not pleasure, when you look at your own weaknesses and decide they're not acceptable anymore, that is not self-hate, it's self-respect. It's the sacred fire that says, I know what I'm capable of, and I refuse to settle for less. The body responds to stress, so does the mind. When you train your body under resistance, whether it's through martial practice, calisthenics, or stillness, you're not just conditioning muscles, you're conditioning your decision-making. You're teaching your nervous system how to stay calm in pressure. You're telling your mind that it doesn't get to rule you with emotions, because the true master has arrived. Each moment you endure discomfort with awareness is a meditation in self-control. You become someone who doesn't run from pressure but moves into it with grace. Now here's the truth. The more comfortable your life becomes, the more you must manufacture difficulty, because without it, you soften. When everything is easy, air conditioning, food delivery, entertainment on demand, you have to choose difficulty. You have to wake up early when you could sleep in, fast when food is available, train hard when no one is watching. Sit in silence when your phone is calling you. These voluntary discomforts aren't punishments, they're blessings, because they awaken the warrior that comfort tries to silence. Character isn't revealed when you're at your best. It's revealed when you're tested, when nothing goes right, when you're tired, frustrated, tempted. That's when your habits show. That's when your training shows. That's when you learn whether the identity you're carrying is real or just a costume you wear when conditions are ideal. If you haven't trained yourself to function under pressure, then you'll crumble under it. But if you've made discomfort your ally, you'll remain grounded, even in the storm. Understand this. The weak version of yourself was built in comfort. It thrives in softness. It feeds on instant gratification. That version of you avoids the hard conversation, skips the hard workout, eats the easy food, and watches the easy distraction. And every time you give in, it grows louder. That's why you have to break it daily, not once, not in a weekend workshop, every morning, because the weak self regenerates faster than you think, and it does so by hiding inside your justifications. I've earned rest. This won't matter. I'll do better tomorrow. These thoughts are not innocent. They are chains. If you want to become unbreakable, you have to train beyond what is expected. You must crave resistance the way others crave rest. You must see discomfort not as an obstacle, but as a compass. Whatever you resist the most, waking early, exercising daily, breathing through stress, embracing silence, is often the very thing that will free you. Lean into that, make a ritual of difficulty, not for the sake of suffering, but for the sake of sculpting yourself into someone worthy of trust, leadership, and self-respect. There is power in choosing the harder path. It rewires your brain. You stop looking for shortcuts. You stop needing applause. You stop negotiating with weakness. Instead, you develop a quiet confidence, one born from daily self-confrontation. You become the kind of person who does what needs to be done, whether it's raining or shining, whether you feel like it or not. That kind of character is rare. That kind of character is respected, not just by others, but by yourself. You must become addicted to effort, obsessed with process, grateful for struggle, because through these, you will destroy every ounce of weakness that's ever lived inside you. And when you look back, months or years from now, you will not remember the comfort. You will remember the mornings you rose when you didn't want to, the workouts that nearly broke you, the fasts that tested you, the silence that refined you. You will remember the warrior you became in those invisible hours. Breaking comfort is not a one-time act, it's a lifestyle, a code, a quiet promise you make to yourself that says, I will no longer live a life beneath my capability. And once you make that promise, and keep it, no force on earth can pull you back into who you used to be. Because you've tasted something stronger, and now nothing else will do. The mind is your most powerful ally, and your most dangerous enemy. It will either propel you forward with purpose, or pull you backward with doubt. And the frightening part is, most people never realize how much of their life is being dictated by an undisciplined mind. Their days are driven by reactions, impulses, cravings, fears, and projections. But the warrior, the awakened individual, takes a different path. They discipline the mind before it deceives them, not after the mistake, not in the middle of the storm, but before the chaos begins. That's where mastery lies. The undisciplined mind loves chaos. It thrives in distraction, it feeds on emotion, and it wants to stay in control by creating noise. It will drag you into memories you don't need, fantasies that don't serve you, and conflicts that never even happen. It's a storyteller, a manipulator, and a trickster if left unchecked. The mind, when undirected, is not your friend. It's like handing a loaded weapon to a child. If you do not step in and give it structure, it will use its infinite creativity to manufacture problems, not solutions. And this is why so many people suffer unnecessarily. Not because of external events, but because their mind interprets those events in a destructive way. Something small happens, a glance, a delay, a comment, and the mind spins it into a narrative of rejection, failure, or inadequacy. That narrative becomes emotion, that emotion becomes identity, and now you're living in a world that doesn't even exist, controlled by thoughts that were never questioned. That's the deception, that's the trap. This is why the disciplined mind must be forged every morning. You don't wait for the world to throw something at you. You sit with yourself in stillness, and you take control of the internal landscape. You observe the thoughts, you notice the patterns, you listen to the voices trying to seduce you back into smallness, and you confront them, you breathe through them, you break them. The discipline of the mind is not about suppression, it's about observation without identification. It's about hearing the thought that says, "I'm tired, I can't do this," and choosing not to become it. It's about watching anxiety rise like a wave and remaining unmoved. It's about training yourself to pause before reacting, to question before believing, to feel without drowning, because until you do that, you are a slave to every passing thought, and a person who cannot control their mind will never control their life. Morning is when the mind is weakest and strongest. Weakest because it's still in a suggestible, dreamy state. Strongest because it's unburdened by the noise of the day. This is the time to train. You sit in silence. You breathe with precision. You direct your awareness like a blade. You cut through the fog of thoughts until only clarity remains. This is meditation. This is mental weightlifting. And like the body, the mind grows stronger with repetition, not with intensity. Some mornings your mind will scream. It will pull every excuse from the shadows. It will try to negotiate with you. Just today, skip the practice. You deserve a break. It's not that important. This is where most lose. They confuse the voice of weakness for logic. They assume that because a thought feels real, it is real. But the disciplined mind knows. Thoughts are just weather. They pass. They come and go. You don't chase them and you don't let them drive. If you want to rise, you must become a guardian of your own mind. Guard it like a sacred temple. Don't let garbage in. Don't let doubt fester. Don't let external noise define your internal peace. Most people have no firewall. They absorb whatever social media says, whatever the news broadcasts, whatever other people project. And they wonder why they feel lost. They wonder why they feel anxious, directionless, tired. It's because they've surrendered their mind to the world, but the warrior reclaims it daily. Mental discipline is not about being positive all the time. It's about being truthful. It's not about avoiding darkness. It's about learning to navigate it. You will still feel fear. You will still feel uncertainty, but you will not be ruled by them. You will not obey them. You will not build your life around them. Instead, you anchor to your core values. You return to your breath. You remind yourself who you are and what you came here to do every day, without exception. And when you train the mind like this, something magical happens. Your confidence becomes internal, not circumstantial. You don't need everything to go right in order to feel right. You don't need constant approval. You don't seek comfort to escape discomfort. Instead, you become grounded, calm, clear, your energy changes, you stop reacting to life and you start responding. You become the calm in the storm, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Mental discipline extends into every area of your life. It changes how you eat, how you speak, how you love, how you train, how you recover. You stop wasting energy on arguments that don't matter. You stop chasing validation. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't even listening, and in that space, you find your power again. You find your focus. You find the self that was buried under layers of noise, distraction, and emotional clutter. But let's be clear, disciplining the mind is not a one-time event. It is a daily ritual. You must return to it like you return to water, food, and air. Every morning, before the world can tell you who to be, you must tell yourself. You must carve the path. You must set the tone. Otherwise, the undisciplined mind will grab the wheel and drive you straight into regret. There is no room for laziness in thought, because lazy thoughts become lazy actions. And lazy actions become a lazy life. The most dangerous thought is the one that goes unquestioned. This is why morning practice, of silence, of breath, of reflection, is non-negotiable. It is the sharpening of the inner sword. It is the clearing of mental debris. It is the moment you step into your own authority and say, "Today, I lead my mind. It does not lead me." A person who masters their mind becomes invincible, not because they are never hurt, but because they are never controlled. Pain may come, fear may arise, but it passes. And what remains is someone rooted in awareness, fortified by discipline, elevated by presence. That is real strength. That is rare. That is what the world needs more of. So ask yourself each morning, who is in control of my mind today? Don't wait for a breakdown to start building your mental fortress. Begin now. Begin with breath. Begin with stillness. Begin by refusing to let random thoughts decide your destiny. Because once your mind is yours, everything else will follow.